iCarly broke up with a guy over owning Beanie Babies? What?
Hey guys, your host Evan is back to entertain, and today we're going to do every episode of iCarly Season 2 reviewed. Season 1 was an alright first season, but overall just a slightly below average attempt into making the audience get into these characters for the first time. Granted, this may be my only opinion, because not only is iCarly's first 3 seasons generally well liked, but if Season 1 didn't do well, then we wouldn't have a Season 2 to be looking at right now. Now, is Season 2 better than Season 1, or shall iCarly stay in this meh quality? Well, we're about to find out. Episode 26, I Saw Him First. Carly and Sam have some competition over generic hot guy. That's basically it. Despite the lack of description I got there, I find this episode to be a better season starter than iPilot, but I still find it on the upper side of meh. Why is that? Because there isn't that much that this episode does wrong, but there isn't a whole ton that this episode does right. Okay, so for the few things that it does wrong, I don't know. I find it a little bit spiteful that Carly literally gets a kiss on Shane when he's, Shane's the hot guy, I should clarify, when he's on the hospital bed. Like, seriously, he's unconscious. I know it's just a little silly bet, but it's just, I don't know. The ending of this episode really kind of bothered me. Also, the episode is kind of repetitive and formulaic. 85% of this episode is literally Carly and Sam fighting over this guy. Yes, in different ways, but they still all fall in the same line. Same general line, which is to try to manipulate them. Which is to try to manipulate him into kissing them or whatever. However, for the things on the right side, the episode is pretty funny. Sam pointing out Frey's new deeper voice. He's just like, I don't know, I just like grapes. It's hard to explain, but you just have to see the scene for yourself. The antics themselves, while repetitive, are semi-funny. And also, the whole 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks, months gag is really funny. Also, Shane literally falling into an empty elevator and Spencer just turning around here acting like he was going crazy was pretty funny. Also, I have a soft spot for this episode because, James Maslow, I say Maslow, is in this episode. And even though it was before Big Time Rush, I have a soft spot for anything Scott Fellows has made. So, automatic good points for that. Overall, this episode is pretty meh. It could be worse, but could be better. Episode 27, I Stage an Intervention. Spencer gets addicted to some arcade game, which is basically a discount Pac-Man. Yeah, and this episode is called Pac-Rat. Usually I can't stand the parodies in these shows because usually they're not very clever and just plain stupid, like Nintendo GS or BF Wangs. But here, I'll give them credit, it is a little bit amusing. The episode, however, is pretty darn good. In fact, I actually forgot how hilarious this episode is. Another fun fact about this, or the first fun fact for that matter, is that this is the first episode of iCarly I have actually watched all together. I don't think it was live. I think iChristmas was the first episode I've seen live, which, was late 2008. I was, in kindergarten. But anyway, I really think this episode is a bit relatable to, gamers who get addicted to this stuff. So, YouTubers, basically. Granted, this isn't the 80s anymore, people actively go to arcades, but even still, it's relatable to people who have home consoles. I usually have self-control when it comes to video games and all that kind of stuff, but that's just me. But otherwise, the episode is really funny, from the smoked salmon joke being on Spencer's face, to the one dude's wife reaction, to just the little jokes like Carly spraying water at Spencer's face, or just little gags that I really like in this episode. Also, the string of Frey's misfortunes were actually a little funny, but the best joke was when Freddy got the last laugh on Sam in the end. I don't know, I guess I have a soft spot for Freddy actually getting back at Sam for once. Anyway. Oh, and this is one line towards the end of it in which Sam blurts something on the lines of, all you nerds are wasting your time, go out because a girl do something. And admittedly, when I was younger, that used to really bother me because, I do play video games, but I do understand, it's just tongue-in-cheek and wasn't trying to be spiteful. Other than that little trigger when I was young, maybe, just maybe the fact that this episode does feel like a stock sitcom plot, which isn't really a bad thing, just worth noting. There aren't really any things I dislike about this episode. In the end, I consider it a good episode. Episode 28, I Owe You. Sam owes Carly and Sam like $500, so she has to find ways to get them the money. So one thing that this show actually made me realize is that out of all of the Schneider shows, this show, Zoe 101 and Victorious, are the only shows in which the main characters don't have jobs. Okay, it's available if their web show is an actual profession. I mean, I don't know if they get money off of it. I mean, I'm guessing they do, but whatever. But even still, it's just something I should note. Why I go on a tangent there? Because this episode is amazing. Amazingly middle of the road. Yes, it's a meh episode. Like I saw him first, there are things that are done right and things that are done wrong, except unlike that episode, it's on a much bigger scale. Not much bigger, but you know what I mean. For the former, I do like the foreshadowing in which Sam was looking up trampolines like halfway in the episode, and when it was supposed to be a small joke, but then she actually ends up getting a trampoline, which I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect, at least when I was younger anyway. Also, I really like how Spencer subplot, his original motivation was to go out with little girl's mom, but then it just becomes to just try to take down these three mean girls. Glad to know this. Yeah. Glad to know that someone's motivation in any of these shows is something other than money and a hot guy slash girl. Probably the best thing in this episode is when Sam literally screams at Freddy and he runs away, which is literally one of the only jokes in the show that consistently gets a laugh out of me. However, when the episode gets bad, it gets really bad. Sam slams her laptop onto Freddy's hands at one point. I'm just like, why? Also, I'm actually a little confused that Carly, Sam, and Freddy didn't realize that literally asking for money over the internet is against the law. Like, I'm sorry, that just seems really basic to me. Granted, it ends up working out for them in the end, but common sense, guys. Also, the scene where Sam gets the money at the restaurant and really starts jumping up and down, cartwheeling and all that. I can see how that's kind of funny, but for me, I just found it incredibly cringy. Like not season one cringy, but just I don't know. I didn't really laugh at that at all. Especially, I don't know why she put the plunger on the one boss's mouth, and it's not like he was like a jerk or anything, but whatever. Morality, what's that? For me, it's just very cringy, but it's whatever. In the end, this episode is just eh. Episode 29, I Hurt Lubert. The iCarly gang has to help Lubert because he got hurt or something. This episode does a lot of things right and does a lot of things wrong. I know I've said that already, but I don't care. Alright, so let's just get this out of the way. The worst part of this episode is just the one scene where Freddy freaks out. Not only is the actual dialogue cringy, I mean, they start using that, what I like to call quote-unquote Schneider slang. And that slang is stuff like chiz or skunk bag or whatever. I mean, that dates back to Drake and Josh, but I don't know. They started really hamming it in season 1 and 2 of iCarly, and it's not really amusing. It's just really cringy. But anyway, Freddy starts to say some of that Schneider slang, and it's really, really dumb. But Freddy yelling and carrying on is just really annoying. However, other than that cringy scene, there are a few funny jokes, such as the fan falling on top of Lubert. And honestly, the entire subplot is really funny. There's this one kid named Chuck he just starts randomly playing with the ball in the lobby, and then he gets so pressed over Spencer calling him out. And this is a thing that continues for the entire series. Yeah, I find it funny how it starts. I also love the ending where the truck drivers that Spencer was making fun of come back and beat up Lubert. In the end, this episode was kind of close to 5-4-3, too bad, but I did like some things like the Spencer subplot, and it's not that offensive, so I find it a pretty meh episode. All right, come on, two more. Let me get some apple cider vinegar. Episode 30. I go to Japan. The iCarly gang go to The iCarly gang go to Japan to attend some sort of oh my god, I can't speak. The iCarly gang go to Japan to attend some sort of video festival. Okay, yes, this is the first TV special, or TV movie, if you will, of Dan Schneider. And or not even Dan Schneider, but iCarly. And how do I feel? Well, I'll put it this way. I think this is a good episode, but at the same time, it does have some problems. Okay, so let's get the best things out of the way. I think the overall production was a bit lazy when it comes to Japan itself, or quote-unquote Japan. Okay, yes, even though it would have been cool, I understand that probably would have been a nightmare in terms of budget if they actually went to Japan, but I don't know, I wish they could try, harder, they could have went to, a place with actual Asian culture, I'm not saying, Chinatown or something that's just incorrect, but I don't know, I wish they just kind of changed up a bit and not just shoot at the usual Hollywood studios. Whatever. Other than that, there are some minor things that bother me, such as the one literally pointless scene, and it's somewhat stupid, in fact, really stupid, in which Carly and Freddy have to walk and hold Sam in their arms, which wasn't funny at all, and, the scene only lasts for 10 seconds, and I don't understand why he added it, but whatever. Also, if I'm going to be honest, I understand there's a ticking clock at this scene to add some tension, but there's really no reason for this man, Good Charlotte, to be here. Look, I wasn't that old in 2008, but I don't think this band was that popular. I mean, the band's popular in late 2000s was stuff like Plain White Tees and Linkin Park, but yeah, I'll stop. However, there are things that I do like. The Japanese aesthetic, while kind of artificial, is nice to look at, and the hotel has some pretty nice visuals, both the room and the lobby. The scene on the plane is really funny, especially when people like Freddy and Spencer are literally just forced off the plane. Speaking of Spencer, I love this little quote-unquote subplot in which he has this Japanese guy cut out, and in order to learn the language, he gets shocked by his I don't know, this electronic collar or something. And it's funnier to be seen than to be explained, so I'll just say that. Also, speaking of Spencer, the one scene in which Spencer and Mrs. Benson are in seaweed is so ridiculous that I love it. Which, by the way, fun fact, seaweed is the worst thing I've ever tasted, so that the more you know. Anyway, the one scene where a truck passes by and mud splashes on the iCarly gang around halfway through must have been downright gross when it comes to production, but I find it a bit funny and amusing when it happens, though once again, it's a little bit pointless. I won't say this episode has filler or anything, but just, I don't know. I guess they could have just cut down some of the stuff, with the iCarly gang just walking in the middle of nowhere. The episode, even though on its own as a movie, is actually pretty decent. But not gonna lie, I was debating if it should be meh or good. But I cited that it's on the cusp of the good tier. Episode 31, iPie. Carly, Sam, Freddy, and Spencer try to get the recipe of their favorite pie, which is coconut cream pie. Fun fact, the guy who plays Mario ends up playing Tori's dad in Victorious. So yeah, that's that. Okay, this episode kind of sucks. Fine, it's a meh episode. The thing with this episode is that for every good idea, there's always something stupid or cringy to take away from it. The only idea, or joke in this case, that doesn't have this problem is the minor subplot, if you will, in which Freddy is trying to make this baby laugh, and then isn't able to do so until he puts the pie on his face, but that's about it. Here are the many examples of what I'm talking about. Yes, the four of them love the pie, which is cool, but in my opinion, they spent a little too much in the beginning just enjoying it, and once again, it's cringy, but it's just kind of filler to be honest, at least for me anyway. I like the idea of the girl hitting on Spencer, but it had happened before, but I don't know, the scenes of them making out seem so forced and cringy and just really uncomfortable, honestly. We have a good setup for a joke here when Freddy is at the bear costume, and it's even funny when Sam hits him on the head, but when it happens again and again, and for a very petty reason, it's not funny, it just makes me feel sad for Freddy once again. Speaking of Sam and Freddy, they have another good setup of them working together to hack into the computer. Heck, it actually has a good ending in which the recipe is literally inside the computer, which is unexpected, but it's still amusing. But just the fighting between the two is just not pleasant. Even when I was younger, I never found this mostly one-sided bickering with these two pleasant. I really gotta wonder what the writers were really thinking. Lastly, it's a funny concept to have the characters have one more piece of pie and have to fight for it, but once again, it just comes off as very stupid. So yeah, the episode is a meh episode because isn't that insulting? I can tolerate the bad moments, but it wasn't that far off from 5, 4, 3, 2 bad. And lastly, for this part, episode 32, Christmas. Carly and this little angel Mitch have to save Christmas. Fine, it's more than that. Basically, there's this alternate reality in which Carly's life is drastically different. Spencer is normal, and he and Mrs. Benson are married. Kind of wonder what the age gap is. Whatever. Frey's dating this royal. Oh my god. Frey's dating this rotten, spoiled chick. Sam is in juvie, and iCarly doesn't exist. So how do I feel about this episode? Well, for one, I actually think this might be the first iCarly episode that I've seen live. I distinctly remember it was around December 2008, and there was a trailer that promoted this special, and also a special from Drew Jackson VP. Hey, remember that show? Yeah, me neither. But anyway, yeah, it's been more than 10 years since I originally seen this episode, and yeah, I thought it was a good episode back when I was 5. I think it's a pretty good episode being 17 now. I really don't have much to say about this episode. It's just an overall enjoyable Christmas special. The main plot, like I've said, is this angel named Mitch The main plot, like I said, is this angel named Mitch that sometimes turns the world we live in, or really the Schneiderverse, since I don't know what world I will live in, where the game sphere would actually be a real thing, into this alternate reality after Carly wishes that Spencer was more normal. As I've said, Spencer is now normal, probably said that like 5 times already, and hence somewhat stoic, and the scenes with him and Mrs. Benson are great because it's just a change from what they usually are, and seeing them kiss at one point is just kind of funny, partly due to Carly's reaction. By the way, now thinking about it, I think the wackiness and the unrealism of this episode, is that even a word, wackiness or unrealism, whatever, really sells this episode for me. Plus, Carly's reaction to all of it is so over the top. I love it. I find it funny, but also somewhat interesting how Freddy actually has a steady girlfriend that isn't a girl from that awful season 1 episode. It turned out the girl was somewhat abusive and no one likes her. Says a lot, doesn't it? I also really like this Mitch character, even though I've seen the actor in some Christmas movies, and he was the actor he was the actor for Splinter on TMNT 2014. I know it seems like I'm rambling on a bit, but overall, I think this episode is pretty solid. And those are the first 7 episodes of iCarly Season 2. See you for the next 7 in Part 2. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Let me just move this chair. Alright. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, 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 testing.